So we're looking at, we're just going to finish off looking at this copy of Sounds from October 77. Gig of the week for me anyway, The Heartbreakers featuring Johnny Thunders at Middlesbrough Town Hall. But look at the live reviews here on page 48. This is just great. A place called the Electric Circus in Manchester, which is up near Collyhurst.
Collyhurst, yeah.
In the middle of nowhere on top of Collyhurst Hill, full of rubble and disused housing and warehouses and stuff. But it was, I suppose, to Manchester, it was the equivalent of what the Roxy was to
that's exactly it, yeah.
Here we go, John Savage reviews this line at the Buzzcocks magazine, John Cooper Clarke, The Worst, The Fall, The Prefects, The Negatives, and last on the bill, Warsaw, who of course turned into Joy Division.
Yeah.
He says here, let's see, so Warsaw, they look young and nervous, he writes, desperate, thrashing, afraid of stopping or falling. And then after them come the Negatives, which I hadn't heard of, but they are led by, I'm quoting here, local teen dream Paul Morley, fueled by the saxophone of Richard Boone, who mentioned before, and driven by the powerhouse drums of Kevin Cummins, the renowned photographer who went on to.
Yes, yeah, a bit of a joke, I think.
Yeah, well it says here, it's a god-awful racket, but they're called back on for 2 encores and nearly got mobbed. And then, of course, the rest of the stuff, I think this was the first ever gig of magazine as well. They played 3 tunes. And
only 3 songs, yeah. Well, it was the last night, wasn't it? Was it the last night of the Electric Circus, was it?
Do you know, I think this was, do you know, that might have been later.
I don't know. Well, they knew that it was going to get closed down. Yeah. I know in that passage, Pete Shelley was saying, you know, hopefully we'll get another place. Which I thought was a lovely way to kind of bring in the people that were watching, rather than saying, well, you know, if somebody else gets another place, then we might play there. Just a solidarity between kind of people out front and people on the stage, because that was a part of punk, is blurring that imagery and kind of barriers. It was, you know, because I know that a lot of those guys just jumping up on stage and kind of jumping on, having a bit of a play, jumping back off. Very loose.
Yeah, and a sense of community as well.
Yeah.
Got to mention, of course, John Cooper Clarke, who is here. Another feature of this festival. Says small and skinny, reminiscent visually of 1966 Dylan. He declaims his poetry of wit and warmth, fast, chewing gum-like, wisecracking. The audience claps along to his rhythm and he goes down the storm. I mean, I think the phrase, you know, people talk about unique talents, don't they? It's just overused, I think, but John Cooper Clarke is a genuine article. To be able to stand up there and do what he did, especially at the height of punk, took some doing, and he had the chops to pull it off.
Yeah, he did. Well, I saw him, I was too young for the Electric Circus. I saw him at Rafters, because after the circus was pulled down, it was there in a place called the Mayflower, in Gorton, which was just as less salubrious. It was a dive, but you know that's what it was about. It was more about the music than anything. And yeah, John Cooper Clarke. I mean, he held kind of people in rapture. He actually had their attention. Because I think there's definitely that kind of one of us anyway elements, and I mean I've seen him now of late, and I saw him a few months ago, and he's got another gig coming up at the Ritz, and of course he's on later on.
Yeah.
Don't miss it. It's absolutely brilliant. It's quite far removed from when I saw him in '78 or whenever it was, '79. It's a lot different. It's very. I mean, it's always funny, but now it's very funny.
Right, okay.
Make sure that you get to check him out.
You know, the thing I love about John Cooper Clarke, at one point in the early 80s, he shared a house with John Cale and Nico, didn't he, in Brixton?
Yes.
I think it was the original Stella Street, which is fantastic.
It could be, couldn't it?
Just a great image of that. We're going to go on to The Enemy from, this is from 4th February 1984.
Yeah.
Smiths on the front.
Ooh.
We've got to get to Smiths, haven't we? Because we've got to set this up by the fact that, I think February 84, first album was coming out.
Yeah.
An Enemy Readers poll is out. Best new acts, of course, is the Smiths. Let's see, beating off competition with Big Country, Aztec Camera, Cocteau Twins, Billy Bragg, and Flying Pickets.
Flying Pickets.
Also worth mentioning, runner-up and best single of the year was This Charming Man. The Enemy writes, probably the most striking success story of the whole poll is the Smiths, acclaimed as the best new group by a massive majority of votes. Manchester's most charming men show every sign of figuring in Enemy polls for years to come.
Is this an award ceremony?
So this is...
I'm just
trying to boost your ego, not
you don't need to, mate.
So what? So this gives an idea of what it's... Because things must have accelerated pretty fast.
Yeah, they did. It was, you know, people talk about meteoric rises. It really was. 1 minute in Portland Street in a rehearsal room with me, Andy, Johnny and Mozart, and the next minute it was Top of the Pops. It really was that quick. Obviously I can't really kind of gauge it with anybody else's success, but it felt unique and it felt very quick, although it felt kind of right. It wasn't as though we were charlatans or anything, kind of, you know, blagging our way in any way. I mean, I think when I went down to one of the first rehearsals with the band, and I hadn't actually joined the band as yet, and I was living in Whalley Range with a friend of mine, and he said, "What are they like?" I said, "Do you know what? They could even be the next Psychedelic Furs." And, you know, he was like, "No, yeah, right," as if, you know, in your dreams, that's never going to happen. And, you know, so we were kind of, we knew collectively that what we had was great. I mean, Morrissey, in his mind, and Johnny as well, had been in a band for the last 20 years anyway, even before they kind of got on any stage, which obviously helps.
Yeah.
But it was very fast.
I think the interesting thing as well is, and people might find it difficult to believe we weren't around, but the idea as well of being an almost traditional setup of a rock band with a singer, a guitarist, bassist and drummer was quite radical for the early 80s. Everything was synth pop, electro pop. The usual find a band without a keyboard, for example.
Well, pretty much, but also I just think the fact that we could kind of play quite heavy and we could play quite light as well. The versatility of the Smiths is something that, because you say what kind of music is the Smiths? Is it rock, pop, reggae, jazz, whatever? It's not any of those things. It's just an amalgamation of music that we wanted to play. So there was no, we had a little foray into, I mean, even to, you know, with Franklin, Mr. Shankly, a bit of umpire and vaudeville and stuff. And, you know, with a bit of punk, you know, with London and What She Said, and with I Don't Owe You Anything, of course, off the first album, you know, that was a real ballad. Yeah, definitely.
Before we go on, because there is a sort of in-depth interview coming up here with the Smiths, should we have a bit?
Yeah, why not? What is it?
Handing up.
Oh, God. Oh, one of your show.
That was Rob Hughes in conversation with Mike Joyce. Fantastic. Really, really great. In this sort of space, I think, I hope